Okay, I'm gonna try to make this pretty quick and simple, but this is low poly day one. Okay. If you haven't already, please get out your sketchbooks, take some notes here just in case you don't know some of the vocab we are getting ready to go over. Okay. We are getting ready to start low poly here. We're going to talk a little bit more about what it is. It's a pretty popular art style. Um, and this is a very good intro beginner project into Illustrator. So we're getting ready to dive in out of Photoshop and then into Illustrator here. Vocab that we will go over during this unit. Talk about subject. You'll have to pick a subject. We'll go into details of geometric shapes, specifically looking at polygons and how we can take those shapes and kind of stack them up to make a form. With that stacking, we'll be creating repetition and rhythm. And then we're also going to touch on value a little bit, looking at tints and shades. The goals of this are one, for you to understand the basics of Illustrator, because a lot of you probably have never used it before. We want to kind of start from scratch and build our way up, just like we did with Photoshop. Two, figure out how to use geometric shapes, those polygons, to create a low poly form. And then three, we need to figure out how to use tints and shades to kind of accurately represent our subject that we pick. So that is the vocab that we are going to be looking at, and these are the goals. An example here from a student, you can see they took a photo. This is their own photo. You can use your own photo or you can source one from online. Their subject here, I believe this was their grandfather or maybe their dad. So their dad is their subject, and they've taken that reference photo and used polygons to make a low poly image here. So this is roughly where we are heading. Taking an image, making it into that low poly. I have a few more student examples here. You can see each one has a clear subject, which we're going to talk more about here. And they are using polygons, specifically triangles, to build those images. Yes, this is Shockley here. This is a fan favorite image. They photoshopped this together and then they turned it into a wonderful low poly. I think these are the last two on here. So lots of different great examples and different subjects here to keep in mind. Okay, so what is low poly? In short, low poly stands for low polygon art. We are using a low number of polygons to create a form. It's minimalistic. It's usually used in video games to create animations. Now we see it in illustrations, tattoos, everywhere. Okay. It's kind of distinctive and angular depending on how many polygons you use. You can see over here that we're starting to use more and more as we work our way up here. Our goal in this class is to avoid this very, very start number. This is too little. Everyone should at least be able to hit the basic number of polygons here. Some of you will be able to take it up to the simple, right? Step it up a little bit and get to this number. Some of you, you know you best, will not be able to work quick enough to hit this number of polygons. So you're going to want to stay with the basic. But we want to be somewhere within these two. We don't want to come down here to these more advanced numbers because we just don't have enough time. So if you feel like you're adding in a bunch of itty bitty triangles and polygons, maybe ask yourself if you need to take a step back in this direction, okay? So feel free to come back and reference the slide and say, hey, am I here? Or am I here? Or am I here? We will be combining polygons, which are 2D and flat, to try to create a 3D form, which is what's happening right here. Short history here of low poly. It does originate from video game design. So back in the day, whenever we were first starting to kind of create video game characters and worlds, they did not want the game to lag a lot. So they were trying to fit the maximum number of visuals, so characters, trees, buildings, without having too much lag or really making that software slow. So they were breaking it down into simpler shapes, polygons, to create a form. This allowed for higher speeds in games. It allowed the render time, which is just kind of like producing that video game, to speed up. Now it's more of a stylistic choice. So if you think about Minecraft, they don't have to make it that way, really boxy and blocky with those polygons. They are choosing to do it. My favorite example is a PC game I used to play. There was a Barbie spy game and a Barbie horse game. Barbie horse game, PC. There's lots of games like this, but I just think back to when I used to play games, and you can see kind of how blocky and chunky some of these are. They're not even that bad. This one's not too bad. And then we also have the Barbie spy game. This one's a little bit worse. You can definitely see her shoulders are very, very boxy. Her body's very boxy. But that's how it used to be, just like this. Take a second here and think about, where is low poly applied to now? Some of these images are hints. It's not just in video games, so maybe you've seen it somewhere else out and about. You don't know if you've never seen any of this out and about. We can see it anywhere or everywhere. It can be applied to almost all mediums. We have 3D, which can be sculptures made out of plastic, paper, bronze, you name it. Sculptures can be made out of just about anything. 2D world, we see tattoos, ink drawings, paintings. We will be making a digital print, stickers, and even more. And then we also see it in animations. So thinking about those video games, you can see it's kind of built up in animations that way as well. So it's literally everywhere, all the time. Okay. I need you can finish watching this video, or you can pause and then work on this and hit play on this video again. Either way, up to you. Ooh. I need you to work on a low poly research poster. I want you to just dive in, do a quick Google search, see what kind of artists are out there. You could type in low poly sculpture artist or low poly sculpture art, maybe low poly paintings, low poly painters. Just take a peek around to see what is out there, and I want you to make a brief research poster of what you find. You can use Canva or Adobe Express. Either one is fine to me. What you need to include on the poster is right here. One, you need to have a credit line. That is just the title of the artwork, the medium, so what it's made out of. If it's a painting, put painting. If it's a sculpture, put sculpture. If it's a digital print, put digital print. You can find the year, put the year, and then any other information about the artwork. So credit line, make sure your credit lines kind of grouped together. Add in a representation of the artwork, so an image of what that work looks like. Please make sure your poster is visually engaging. Don't just leave it white. Add the name of the artist. So Liam is the name of my artist up here. A brief description of the artist or the artwork. Add that right down here. And then add the link for where you are sourcing your information, which I have right down here. Once you get all that information on here, you can save this as a PDF, PNG, or a JPEG, and you need to submit it to Schoology. Do not use the artist I have up here. Find someone new, find a different artwork. When you get ready to submit it, you need to head to Schoology, to the low poly project folder, and dive into the research folder and submit it here for me. The link to Canva and Adobe Express is right here. So you can pause this video, come back to it, or you can finish it now and then work on that. Up to you. Okay, if you're still with me, here's the next part of the presentation. So once you get this guy done, we need to start thinking about subjects. A subject is just the image or an object that a viewer can identify in a piece of art. So if we look over to our two images here, within this one, we have fruit, that would be our subject, and we have Mona Lisa would be our subject. It's often the what. What are we seeing in this image? What do we see? Fruit. What do we see? Mona Lisa or a figure, right? For the project, you're going to want to pick out a very clear subject, okay? We don't want anyone to get confused with the nitty-gritty of details. So for example, we have this low poly image here. They tried to do a landscape, but it was just too much. There wasn't one clear subject within the landscape. You had lots of little foliage down here, other things happening here, rocks, more landscape in the back, tree, too much, okay? So avoid landscapes. There's not one clear subject here. And avoid anything with no distinct shapes. So if you have lots of little plants that are way far away and we can't see the details of them, don't do that, okay? Don't let this happen to you. It's too much detail. We don't have enough time for it. Between these two images, take a second, stare at both of them. Which one do you think has a clearer subject? The left or the right? If you are thinking the left one, you are correct. The boats are very clearly the subject here, right? And they have very clear, distinct shapes. The outside of it, the inside of it. Same with this one here. Over here, it's a little bit less clear what the main subject is. Is it the river? Is it the house? Is it the trees? Is it this path? There's too much happening. We have a couple clear shapes, like the river and the grass, but then we have a lot of little detail within this landscape. So we want to avoid this one and go with the boats. Another example here, stare at these two and think which one would be a better low poly project image. Which one has a clear subject here? Again, if you're thinking the one on the left, you are correct, okay? The one on the right, again, leans towards that landscape. We don't have a lot of clear shapes here. It's just a bunch of itty bitty flowers. We don't know what the main subject is with the flowers. Is it the mountains? Is it the building in the background? There's a lot going on, probably too much to capture here. The one on the left very clearly has the subject being this flower up front. Good, distinct petal shapes, good center shape, and the background details are kind of muted in favor for us, okay? So make sure that when you get ready to pick a subject, that we know what it is. We have good shapes here, and we are avoiding landscapes. One other thing I really want you to think about when looking for your subject is value. Value is just how light or dark a given hue or color can be. Hue and color are the same thing. So if I say hue, that means color. If I say color, that means hue. So if we look over here at our red color here, we have lots of different values of it, going up from a little bit lighter to even more light to the lightest. A tint is a lighter version of a hue. So we take that color and add white. So with my red, we're adding white, and we keep adding white to get multiple tints of that hue. A shade is the exact opposite. We take that hue and we add black and it gets a little bit darker, a little bit darker. In this case, it would be more of a maroon. We could go all the way down to the darkest shade. So value is just how many different colors we can get within that range, thinking about adding white and black tints and shades. So thinking about our subject here, we do want to pick a subject with lots of value and color. We don't just want one color from our subject. We want multiple. A don't is we don't want to pick a subject with little color variety. So again, if it had one or two versus having 10 different values of red, we would want to steer away from that. So I have a couple of examples here. Looking at these two images, which one do you think has better values, a wider variety of values? If you are thinking the one on the left here, you would be correct. If we look at Marilyn Monroe's face here, yeah, we have really dark shadows here, which could be considered a shade of maybe this like pinkish color of her face. And again, that's happening up in her hair. But other than that, there's not a lot going on. Most of her face is a flat pink color, and most of her hair is just a flat yellow color. And then we have this one blue, one red. We don't have a lot of different values to work with here. We come over here, we look at this subject's face. We have very, very light tints of like this tan, and then it moves into a little bit darker tan. Some more shades heading over to this side of her forehead. You have even more shades down here on her cheeks. I would say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different shades and tints happening on her face. Lots of different values, okay? Same thing with her hair. We have lots of different colors and values happening. If you look at our neck, right? Oops. We have a couple different ones down here. We get darker, a little bit lighter to a little bit lighter. This one's like a middle ground dark. So we're looking at colors and we're looking at the values within one color. We want a really wide range. More color and value, less color and value. One more here. Look at both of these lizards and think which one of these would make a better subject. Which one of them has better values? If you're thinking of the one on the left, again, you would be correct. We look at this guy on the right, we have a couple different values happening, but for the most part, his body is just about one light tint of green. Same with the stick or branch that he's on. Couple different colors are happening in there, but for the most part, it's a lot of just that really light value. There's not a good range. We look over here, even just looking at the body of this lizard, we have lots of shades and tints. We have a ton of different shades here below his neck and by his arm. We have a really dark shade, a bit lighter, a little bit lighter. This is probably our base color here of that orangey yellow. And then we have a couple tints back here on his back with this black color. So while you're picking out a subject, make sure you are looking at the values. Which one has more value and color? You don't want a very flat image. A good way, if you feel like you're stuck, think about the lighting. Which one has better lighting? This has a really harsh lighting where we have lots of shadows and highlights, and this one does not, okay? So again, find a clear subject that is easily distinguishable with good shapes to it, and a good subject considering color and value. All right. So the last portion of today is just starting to look for a subject. If you find one within the end of class here, great. If you don't, it just needs to be submitted by Friday. While you are looking for a subject, remember, make sure it has clear, distinct shapes, make sure it has good color and value, and make sure it is an easy identifiable subject, not a landscape. Okay. If you don't find one today, no worries. You can submit on Friday. If you find one, feel free to submit to Schoology. And then please, if you did not pause the video, don't forget to do your research poster. All right. Thank you.